Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything from the Pistons to the NBA draft and the Motor City Cruise.
And if you guys are joining with us live here on YouTube or Facebook, not on Twitter, haven't figured that one out yet, but if you're joining us live right now on a Sunday morning, thank you. We appreciate it. Leave the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But Blake, it is a beautiful Sunday morning. I don't know about by you. We got the sun out. It's not too cold outside. And the Pistons are on a 9 out of 10 game streak here over the last 10. So what a wonderful time to be in Michigan.
I know, yeah, it's truly unbelievable. And I mean, we're recording the morning after the Pistons beat the Brooklyn Nets. And I mean, I was super impressed on the second half of a back-to-back. The Denver Nuggets break that 8-game winning streak, and then the next night the Pistons bounce back and beat a team that they absolutely should beat. And that's what good teams do. I remember just the last few years, it feels like there was no rhyme or reason for the games that they would win, and they would drop games that they shouldn't have, and opportunities where they were able to win. And now this season, with this incredible turnaround, that's like just hard to fathom even how it's happened this quickly, but they've figured that out and are winning these games that they're supposed to win, which goes a long way.
Yeah, it really does. And really quickly, I want to apologize to our listeners if my voice is a little off or if I cough a little bit. I'm on the back end of a flu, feeling good now, so no worries there, but still have a little bit of a cough, and I can feel it in my throat just a little bit. So hopefully my voice isn't too bad. But yeah, I just wanted this little back-to-back was kind of the final selling point for me. I mean, after that Boston win, I was pretty high. I was like, okay, not only was I way too low, this team has so far exceeded any expectations. They're real, they're legit. Like this is 100% of the best outcome that anyone could have imagined in their dreams, right? And then you go and you play the Nuggets, and the Nuggets are another championship contender. They're a really good team. They're multifaceted. They got pretty good defense. They can attack you in a few ways. The Pistons came out, they punched them in the mouth, right? And the Nuggets countered, and the Pistons came back, and then the Nuggets countered again, right? And kind of put the Pistons down. And that's a tough one to take when you've got a team here that had been winning so many games. They are so young. They were riding high. And so I thought that was a really good game, really good learning experience to have that. And like you said, come back against the Nets, a team that you should beat, and even have the Nets kind of do their best to take away Cade's scoring a little bit, throw a lot of physicality at them like the Nuggets did. And they still come out. And yes, the Nets came back a little bit in the third quarter, but the Pistons stomped that out pretty quickly too, right? So the Nets came back, punched the Pistons a little bit, and then the Pistons punched them back down and put them out like a good team should do. So I just think at this point, if anyone has any doubts, you could just put those to bed. This team's real. It's exciting. They're legit, and sky's the limit. I'm just excited to watch more Pistons basketball. This has been so fun.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, even the fourth quarter against Brooklyn, like I think they cut it to 8 at one point, and then the Pistons rattled off a run right after that. And yeah, Malik Beasley, whatever happened there when he got ejected with like half of the fourth quarter.
He just took a tour of the visitor bench. I mean, no big deal, right?
That was truly funny. And I mean, always animated, but wasn't expecting that ejection by any means. But after that point, like that was when the Pistons were on the run, and the game was over at that point. So yeah, the Nets came back a little bit, but like you said, they were able to counter and waver the storm and not let things get out of hand, even when they were taking Cade scoring out of the game, like you mentioned, and finding other ways to happen. Like Cade still had 9 assists. He was creating offense. Malik Beasley had an unreal game shot making wise himself. So yeah, it seems like even when teams are attacking Cade, he's going to be at the top of every game plan. Like there are other answers too. Now you have more ball handling on the roster with the addition of Dennis Schroeder. So it seems like they're a deep team too, which is why like I don't know how far they can go, but it seems like sustainable what they're doing right now.
And I think that this depth is really going to get tested here down the back stretch of the season. I don't want to say that the Nuggets like put out a blueprint or anything. I don't think they did. This isn't anything new that teams have been sending against Cade, right? Teams have always been physical with him and they've always been trapping him. But it seems like after this hot stretch that he's had in February, it's like ramped up to 11. It's somehow even gotten more, right? And so Boston didn't do it as much. Seems like the Nuggets just really sent the house at him. And it seemed like that was a game you really missed Jaden Ivey. I felt like that was a game the team really missed Jaden Ivey, not just because of the ball handling, though that was part of it, and Schroeder did really help there, but more just the ability to, find someone else to go get a bucket and make something happen for the offense. And Schroeder's still getting acclimated, so he's not quite there yet. I thought they really missed Ivey that night. Whereas with the Nets, I don't know about you, but it felt a little bit more intentional with Cade not shooting as much. He had opportunities. I think he only had 9 shots on the night, if I remember correctly. That's I don't know if that's game plan, but it didn't seem like he was really pushing the envelope for his own offense. Not that he needed to, but yeah, I just think that the depth here now is going to be tested a little bit down the stretch. Can Schroeder really acclimate himself to this offense to help counter that? I think you saw against the Nets, actually, when they early were putting a lot of pressure on Cade, what did Bickerstaff go to in that second half, right? He went right away to Schroeder next to Cade to try and take some of the pressure off and quell that push, that comeback that they were making. So I bet we're going to see that a lot more. That was actually the first game I can remember we saw that hammer action return, right, where he'd pass it up to Schroeder on the wing, and then Cade would take it on a DHO going to the baseline, which we saw a ton with Jaden Ivey. So we're starting to see some of this trickle back in, and I suspect we're going to continue to see more of it trickling back in. And I'm very curious to see how that's going to build out here the rest of the season. I think it could be really key to the Pistons handling good teams down the stretch.
For sure. And yeah, coming up, I mean, you had this nice home stand and really this stretch where you won 9 out of 10 games, but they're hitting the West Coast now and have a couple tough games at least, and a decently long road trip that when you come back home, you have a back-to-back against Washington, which I guess is the light at the end of the tunnel, but they're going to get tested on this road trip too. You going to LA to play the Clippers, you're going to Golden State to play the Warriors, who are hot right now. So you're running into some good teams and still have to play like Oklahoma City too. So I think they are going to be tested, like you mentioned, but right now how they're playing, like you almost expect them to win every night, no matter who the opponent is, especially after what they did to the Celtics. I mean, going into that Denver game, the Pistons were favored. Like, if you would tell me going into the season that the Pistons were the favorite against the Denver Nuggets, like, I wouldn't have believed you. So really, I think the expectation is like totally changed. Like, I know fans believe in them, like this team believes in themselves. So I am not like doubting their ability to go on the road and grab a couple of these West Coast games, at least against really tough teams like title contenders. But yeah, it's not going to be easy. And even against Brooklyn, a game that they should have won, like you didn't see them go out there and just like go through the motions. Like there was an energy about that game and really trying to get a win after the win streak was broken. So I just think like the vibes are good, and really it's just incredible to watch. I'm excited to see how it goes down the stretch and how far this team can go.
This is what good teams do. What you just said, that's what good teams do. That's what winning teams do. You're not going to win 82 games. It's never been done. I'll go out on a limb, say maybe it never will, right? That'd be one heck of a season if someone could go undefeated. Yeah, 82-0. But look, this is how a good team responds. You just rattled off a big win streak, right? You lost a game against a really good team. You gave it your best shot. They punched you in the mouth. They just had you that night. It is what it is. So you lost a game, you lose the winning streak, and you got to start over. And they had a good team, a great opportunity against them to do that, right? The Nets are not a fantastic basketball team. They're a good defensive team. They're a very bad offensive team. So you had a great shot there. Lesser teams would come out, and we've seen this over the past few years with the Pistons. Lesser teams, they come out, and that's more of a game than it was, especially early. You let the Nets hang around, and then all of a sudden you get into the fourth quarter, and it's kind of a coin toss how that game's going to turn out, who's going to win it. The Pistons came out, and they had clearly, I think Malik Beasley even said this in a pregame interview, they clearly had the mindset, we've just won 8 of our last 9. Let's make it 9 out of 10. Right. Let's make this a 9 out of 10 streak and just keep the good vibes going, like you said. And they did that. They came out strong. They put the Nets down right away. Yes, they had to weather a comeback. But again, that's what good teams do. We've been on the other end of this, right? We've been on the other end of that team in kind of the middle of the playoff standings with the Pistons being very bad, and they get hit early and they make that third quarter push when the other team kind of laid off the gas a little bit. And all of a sudden that opposing team, they wake up there late in the third and it's no longer a game and it's over. So you got the little comeback to feel good about, and then that's about it. How many times did we watch that last year? I mean, it felt like it happened a ton down the stretch. So we've seen the other side of this. And now we're finally on the other end of it. Now we're finally on the winning side of it. And like you said, I just think it feels really good. A couple of good points here from guys in our comment section. We got YouTube user, our guy says he thinks that Cade is expending less energy in blowout wins and losses, which I agree. I've noticed that well. And he's saying that that's going to be really important for keeping his legs strong down the stretch when he needs them. I agree. I really agree with that. And we got our guy Chuck Brewer here saying the biggest difference last year to this year is that the coaching staff is trying to win versus last year they were doing whatever the heck they were doing. He says it wasn't coaching, which I want to add to this really quick, and I want to see if you agree with me. I think it's not just the coaching staff. I think this is the whole organization. Last year, you still had, from as far as I can tell, an edict coming from on high that Isaiah Stewart had to be starting at power forward next to Jalen Duren, that was the experiment we needed to see play out. I don't know if there was anything similar with, like Killian Hayes playing next to or playing significant minutes. And shout out Killian Hayes. Actually, I didn't think he played terribly against the Pistons here the other night, but that was not a great fit, especially with Asar Thompson as a rookie starting day one out there. I feel like the entire organization here, especially after the trade deadline, is now all in trying to win as many games as they possibly can this season. And that's the first time we could say that, since 2019?
Yeah. Yep. And I think it's like, just speaking to the front office, I think the thing that I've been most impressed with Trajan Langdon is he's said in his interviews, like, he can't do this whole thing himself, and he's went out and made all these different hires for guys. Like, he brought in one of his salary cap guys to who I'm sure helped finagle the Paul Reed thing, opening up some cap space there once they waived him and then worked out a new deal, and then with the trade deadline too. And I think Troy Weaver, if you can give him like a tip of the cap for anything, like, of course the drafting, but also he left some flexibility, like didn't keep this new front office's hands tied, which made it an exciting job. And I think Langdon has been a perfect fit, done an amazing job so far, because like obviously we don't see everything going behind the scenes, but we saw once Langdon was hired, you saw a bunch of hires trickle in after him to help with different things, guys that he has had relationships with. And with the coaching staff, I know that the coach of the year conversation is a big thing right now. JB Bickerstaff with Kenny Atkinson. Who knows how that'll shake out? I think they're both deserving. I think JB is definitely deserving with what he's done in such a short amount of time, and being one of like the last hires in this cycle. I just think it's incredible that the two front runners for the award are like the team that JB coached last year and like both new coaches. Like, how often does that happen when a coach gets fired and then goes to a new team, and the team he got fired for, that new coach is up for a coach of the year? It's like an interesting storyline. But yeah, it's the staff and the Fred Vincent hire, which is another hire that Langdon has made. Like, we don't know everything behind the scenes there too, but it just seems like there's a ton of impactful moves that were made over the off season that really like set this team up for success.
Okay, before we get into the questions here that we've gotten from our live chat already, and then pre-submitted as well, and we did get a voicemail this week, Blake. We did. I'm really pumped to listen to that one. Before we get into that, I had two things that I wanted to quickly hit on with you. First one, I think this one could be even quicker than the second. I felt like Ron Holland hit a bit of a rookie wall over this past month. Somewhere around the middle of February, it felt like his production kind of dipped. He was less impactful, less energetic out on the floor. And then he kind of crawled his way over it. It feels like he fought his way back over the wall, leapt over to the other side, and now it just looks like that same old Ron Holland that everyone was so excited about, that we were all so excited about. And I can't, again, I've said this a few times this year with Ron Holland, but I can't remember a Pistons rookie doing that outside of the superstar guy like Cade, right? Or I'm sure if Grant Hill ever hit a rookie wall, I'm sure he got over it. But I'm struggling to think of other rookies that I have watched in my time that have hit that wall and then in less than a month scrapped their way over the top of it and found a way to keep going. It feels like more often we've had rookies hit the rookie wall, which is totally understandable. You've never played this many games, never played this many minutes, practiced this much. You've never done that in a year. So you hit the wall, and then that's kind of it for the rookie year. You're just fighting to get to the finish line. I think Ron Holland's excelling again. I was not expecting this, and I'm amazed.
Yeah, he definitely is. And I mean, yeah, if you're looking at the box scores or anything, like what he's doing doesn't jump out at you, but he's an important piece to this team. And there aren't a lot of rookies in this class who are going to, or who are playing like a big role for a playoff team. Like, yes, Dalton Connect, but he's much older, and he provides.
And also almost was kicked out.
Yeah, glad to see that that whole situation has seemed to resolve itself. But yeah, Ron like provides a different element. Like, he's going to come in and give you energy, and he can finish around the rim, like score a little bit. That's obviously a work in progress still, and compete defensively. So I think while Ron Holland is nothing close to a finished product, like getting this experience on a team who's in position for the playoffs and hopefully can make something crazy happen once they get there. Like, not a lot of rookies have that experience, because like you were saying with the wall, if it continued at this point and how the seasons were going for the Pistons the past few years, like it might be time, like, okay, we don't need to get hurt or anything, like shut things down a little bit, even though you're still getting minutes. Like, don't go crazy. Maybe it's the time where we started to see some of like the Pistons themselves get shut down for the year, and now like things are just totally different. So I think it's a great opportunity for Ron to have this experience in his first year of his career, because it'll the best is yet to come for him.
Couldn't agree more. Last point here before we get over to our questions. That game against the Brooklyn Nets, I wanna put this out there because it was so exciting. This was by far the best I have ever felt about Jalen Duren as a rim protector in his time in the NBA. It's not just the fact that he had 6 blocks, which, by the way, he had 6 blocks, 6. But it's not just that. It's that he also had five fouls, and let's just take for a moment that all 5 of them were not shooting fouls. So let's say maybe 4 of them were shooting fouls. 4 out of the 5, because he's a big, so they're all probably closer to the rim. So let's say that 4 of those 5 fouls were shooting fouls. That means that he aggressively attempted to contest at a minimum of 10 shots where he impacted the outcome. And I don't know if I could ever have said that before, having watched him over these past 3 seasons. I was so impressed. I understand that it's the Brooklyn Nets and they're one of the worst offensive teams in the NBA. And yes, he was playing against, outside of a couple of those wings, mostly below the rim athletes. I get all of that, so we could go grain of salt here for sure. But I've never been able to say that so confidently before, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up. It was impressive. It was exciting. This was by far the best he's ever performed as a rim protector.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Chuck Brewer in the chat asked about Duren cupping the ball and
I think it's
at
a
the
block.
rim. It is a block. Duren did have 2 steals, but that play specifically where Duren just like grabbed the ball and ran the floor for a bucket, I was like, that was the most incredible play of his career. And not even like the dunks are flashy. And I thought he had one of the best dunks of the year against the San Antonio Spurs, where he like caught a alley-oop with one arm and like threw it down. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the 6 blocks, I hope it's not an anomaly or anything, because the past 5 games, I think the 4 before his career high 6 blocks, I think he had 1 block total. So I hope we see that continue, because when he is impactful as a rim protector, it's really like a game changer, because Isaiah Stewart is so good off the bench. He's just like one of the best rim protectors in the league, I think, especially for someone at his size. And if you can add on Jalen Duren to that, like, it's going to be tough to score on this team, and you're going to have to live and die by the 3. And I think JB Bickerstaff would be willing to take that trade-off, because he said before, like, just his priority is to protect the paint. And if like that's Jalen Duren's job. So if he's more so improving at that, when you do have one of the a crazy impactful rim protector off the bench too, and Isaiah Stewart, like it makes his job a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah, and look, like, we could nitpick this game for him as well, which we could probably do with a lot of the guys, especially him and Isaiah Stewart, who both, I think, they both had 5 fouls. So that's not amazing, right? I didn't love his 3 turnovers, Duren's 3 turnovers. I thought all 3 of them were not required. He didn't need to be doing the thing that he was doing that generated those 3 turnovers. The 2 steals are good, only 2 assists, which is down a little bit from what he had been over the past couple of weeks, right? Only 11 rebounds. You wish you could see that up just a little bit more against a team like the Nets that really don't have the physicality to match. Point is, we can nitpick that. I don't want to do that. I thought that he played an incredibly impactful game as a rim protector, and that was why he was so effective out there on the court. That was why you felt him. You noticed him so much when he was out there on the court, and it wasn't as big of a swing on the defensive side of the ball when Isaiah Stewart came in. And, I mean, you said it. That's not been the case the past couple of weeks. That's not been the case over this hot stretch. He has been, the things that he's improved on this year, and I don't want to take it away, but the things that he's been improving on this year are things that he was already good at, which is what we generally see, right? Guys improve at the things that they're already showing aptitude for, that they're already good at. That's normal. Okay, so it's fantastic that he's doing that. The defensive side of things is new. He's not really shown an aptitude for this. He had, I don't even think it logs as a steal, but there was a run out where it ended up with a lob, I believe, from Ron Holland to Jalen Duren, where Jalen Duren was playing drop coverage, had active hands, and tipped a pass. And that's how Holland got the steal. We have not seen that. We've not seen stuff like that out of Jalen Duren very much this year. So for him to put that all together in one game, yes, against the Brooklyn Nets, bad offense, whatever, throw that out. It doesn't matter. For him to have put that all together against the Nets like he did, I think that's notable. I think you got to earmark this and follow it hopefully the rest of the year. I really hope he can build on this. This would be absolute game changer for the team going into the playoffs if he can tap into this type of performance on a pretty consistent level.
Yeah, like you said, it's something to build off of. There's still a lot of work to do for it to be sustainable. Want to see him just put more of these games together. But yeah, he had a little bit of like a swagger about him defensively, like wagging the finger at one point in the against the Nets in his like career high 6 block game. So yeah, I hope we continue to see it. I think he's capable. We just saw it. But yeah, it's just we'll see. And also like I don't think it's imperative for the Pistons to continue winning because we've seen them win when Duran isn't having like a rim protecting night. But it certainly helps, and it just makes the coaching staff's job a lot easier and just makes the opponent's life a heck of a lot harder.
I'll put it even more firmly though. I do think it is pretty imperative down the stretch. I mean, you brought up the schedule. You got the Clippers, you got the Warriors, the Blazers are playing really well. The Thunder are a great team. The Heat are nipping at their heels. The Mavericks are talented. Pelicans are, not super healthy, but Zion's playing pretty well. Cavs, Timberwolves, Thunder again, Grizzlies. Like this is a murderer's row down the stretch of the season with really talented teams. Knicks, the last 3 games of the year, Knicks, Bucks. That's going to be huge, right? So I think that this is really imperative. I think if this team can count on not this level of performance every night, but maybe just half of it, right? Just 50% of this kind of performance on almost every night. I think that is pretty imperative down the stretch here. And as long as we're talking about Duran, we got this question here from YouTube user referring to those rumors about Detroit and the Los Angeles Lakers when they were looking to add a big, right? And so he asked, do you think that the rumors that Detroit told LA they weren't interested in trading Duran because he's part of the core means anything? And I will just quickly say, I think it could mean everything or it could mean nothing. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Like well, we're gonna get our answer this summer when we see if he's given an extension or not. And I just think how the team has played, like it probably made the trade deadline a heck of a lot more difficult to come up with a plan of action because when you're jockeying for playoff positioning, you don't want to trade your starting center, even though like it maybe would have been more enticing, especially for the package the Lakers offered for Mark Williams is on the table. Like the Pistons haven't been able to acquire a first round pick at any point, and that those Laker picks are big assets. So I think it does mean a little bit of something. But also the counterpoint to that would just be Langdon not wanting to muddy the waters, like fix something that's not broken when with the team playing how they were. And I don't know, like I'm leaning right now toward Duran getting an extension this summer. I don't think it's going to be a big, like crazy big number, anything close to the max, but I think the offer is going to be on the table for sure.
I'm getting closer. I'm definitely getting
Yeah.
closer. So let's get to this question here from at Abdulio Garcia 19. Says through defensive analytics or the eye test, how would you describe Cade Cunningham's defense this season? Is it necessary for him to improve defensively in order to reach superstardom? What do you think?
I don't think it's necessary for him to reach superstardom, but I think it certainly helps just because so many stars across the league like don't play defense and they're sole like offensive players, and then you have to make things work around it. And just to add some context to it, to go a little like defensive stats, I don't think any defensive metrics are solely like perfect, but Cade's defensive rating his rookie year 113, year 2 and 12 games, 119 last season, 120 this season so far. It's back down to 113. So I think what really gives Cade, what like I'll give him credit for is he competes on that end, and sometimes he makes plays, and he's not like you don't have to hide him defensively and try to get away with it. Like I think some other coaches have to do with the Trey Youngs of the world and the Lucas of the world. I think Cade is better defenders than stars like that. And yeah, just like the compete level is there, and it's been there for a lot of players on this team that I thought were pretty much sole offensive guys. Like Malik Beasley can make things happen on defense sometimes. And when he was brought in, I didn't think he was going to do anything on that end. So yeah, I think the eye test, I just say it's the compete level for me. He's out there trying to get a hand on the ball, make things happen, and then because he's good in the whole team is good at upping the pace and keeping things going in transition as well. So at the same time, I don't think him becoming a good to great defender is necessary to reach superstardom. I think everything he does on offense will take care of that. But it competing on defense like Cade does really helps this team improve and just not having one of those stars that you just have to hide and is known as like a traffic cone.
Right. And just to build on that, like, isn't he already kind of on the cusp here of superstardom with the level of defense he's already playing? Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about him as, at this point, I mean, Bryce said it on the Pistons Pulse, but nearly a lock for one of the all NBA teams. I agree. That's where I'm at. I think it'd be a shock if he's not on at least third team. He's probably got an argument here going up to maybe all NBA second team, or even, I don't want to say it, but maybe even higher if he keeps playing the way he is and the Pistons keep climbing in the standings. Like, he's already right on the cusp there for superstardom. So the only thing I want to add, and I think we've talked about this a little bit before, I just wish that the steals numbers were a little bit greater. They ask him to play that free safety role quite a bit. He's not always guarding your Tatums, though he does that on occasion, like he did against Boston. He was on Michael Porter Jr. for a little bit in the Denver Nuggets game. But I do wish when they had him kind of roaming on the back end, if the steals numbers could go up, because he is such a high-level processor, right? He's so good at reading the floor from the offensive end that really it should translate. It should translate to the defensive side as well. We see that with guys like Luka Doncic, and actually let me look that up as well here, how many steals he tends to average, because I believe it is a little bit more. Apologize, this is bad podcasting. Yeah. So Luka's close to 2. He's at 1.9 or 1.5 for the majority of his career once he really took that leap right into superstardom. Right now, Cade's at just 1. So if he could get that up to 1.5, I think that might be the unlocking factor to just even another level of production that he has. And just to back this up one more time, only 2.1 deflections per game for Cade Cunningham, according to NBA.com. I think if he could jump a little bit more passing lanes, just be a little bit more aggressive playing on that back end. He does get a decent number of blocks, especially for a guard, which is huge, right? Yeah, YouTube user brings that up. Cade comes up with big blocks in big moments. Absolutely. Don't lose that, right? And that's from him playing that free safety side of things. And again, it's just more reason to believe that he does process the floor on the defensive side of the ball very well as well. So if he could just add a half steal per game, right? Maybe another steal per game, jumping passing lanes, I think that would be huge. So that's the one thing that I want to add. Not better on-ball defense. I think he's already kind of maxed out there in terms of what his load can be when you pair it with his scoring load that he has on offense. I'm not looking for more of that. That's why you have a SAR. That's why you want Jaden Ivey to take a little bit more of that when he's healthy. So let's get some more of these off-ball steals. That's what I want to see.
For sure, yeah, and I mean his stocks numbers have went up almost like a half, like 0.5 since last year, but that's all solely with blocks. The steal numbers, like you mentioned, have been pretty flat over his career. So yeah, I think if he can get some deflections, come away with a few more steals here and there, I think it would go a long way too. Because like you mentioned, he oftentimes when the Pistons are playing, he's the best player on the floor. And he's also the smartest player on the floor, I'd say. So he's definitely able to do it. We've seen it at times. And yeah, I think that improvement would be nothing but a game changer, sort of like what we were talking about if Duran's able to up the rim protecting like we saw in the Brooklyn game.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Luka's a better defender than Cade. I want to walk that back. That wasn't my point. Luka's also a much better offensive player than Cade Cunningham is, at least right now. So I think that if we could get one way to close the gap a little bit more would be if the steals numbers could get much closer to where Luka is. Because then now you're even now you close the gap. Now you're even closer. Maybe you're not averaging 30 points a night, but you're at 25, 26, a little bit less assists, but just about the same. But you're stealing the ball about as much, and you're a better on-ball, off-ball defender as well. You're more versatile that way. That's just he's going to be a different player. Cade is not Luka Doncic, but in terms of getting him up into that echelon of talent, I think this could possibly be a way to take that final step. One last little area for him to improve on as he continues to grow. Let's get into this one here. Let's see, which one do we want to do? YouTube user, our guy says, what do you think is the most likely outcome now for this season? Have we changed from where we were at the All-Star break? He's thinking the 5th seed. What about you?
Yeah, most likely outcome. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with sticking with the 6. I mean, it really 4 through 6 is really tight. It's the Bucks, Pacers, and Pistons all within a game of each other. So I think they could be 5th. I think they can jump to the 4th, but I think the Pacers are playing pretty good right now, and I think it'll be hard to jump them over the stretch. And also both of those teams like own the tiebreaker over the Pistons, I believe. So if it's neck and neck down the stretch, that gives them a little bit of apple at the end. But I don't know, like where the Pistons are sitting at the 6, like the New York Knicks are most likely the 3rd seed, and like I don't hate that matchup at all for the Pistons. It would be tough, but like Tibbs is going to run those guys into the ground, and I think the Pistons are a little bit deeper, and we've seen the Pistons beat the Knicks this year, and we know how Cade Cunningham plays at Madison Square Garden. So right now I think I'm leaning towards just like sticking in the 6. They're 4.5 games ahead of the Miami Heat, who are the 7th right now. I think that'll be a tough like difference to make up overall. And I just am not sure if like I think the Bucks and the Pacers will play okay down the stretch to the point where they'll probably stick where they are and have the Pistons stay in that 6th spot.
The Beastman 17 from our DBB comment section wants to know about the 3rd seed being possible.
It's possible. It's possible, but very unlikely.
Yeah, I draw the line of possibility at the 3rd seed. I don't
the
think
Pistons are 6 games back of the 3rd seed New York Knicks.
And I think they've played more games. Yeah, they've played more games than the Knicks have at this point as well. So that also makes it a little bit difficult to eat up into that games back. Here's what I think. I'm going to call my shot. I think 5th seed. I think they pass the Bucks, and I think you get a 4-5 Pacers-Pistons series, and that's going to be entertaining as all heck. That's what I think at this moment. That's my guess. I just don't love that Bucks team. Man, I know that they're playing well. They're 7-3 over their last 10. I don't love the Bucks team right now.
Yeah, I mean, hey, a Pacers Pistons playoff series, like with how they've went at each other this year, would be true cinema. So I would definitely root for this outcome, but I mean, do you think the Pistons could beat the Pacers in a playoff series?
Maybe.
I think
Maybe.
I think it'd be really tough. Like I'd rather play the Knicks personally. And I still
I
think the
agree.
Knicks would be favored, and it would be very hard to win that series. But I think the matchup a little bit more tends to the Pistons than it would be if they were to play the Pacers. But it would be so entertaining.
The one thing that I would say maybe we should prefer a Pacers matchup, and this is so fun to be talking about, that maybe we should be preferring a Pacers matchup instead of a Knicks matchup would be, so yes, both, actually all three of these teams, right? Bucks, Pacers, Knicks, they all three have stretch big. So let's just throw that out. That's not really, you're not going to get an advantage for the Pistons on either way. That's going to be a tough matchup on the big spot. I think that the Knicks are able to throw a level of size and versatility at Cade Cunningham that really none of the other two teams can. The Bucks can't. The Pacers certainly can't. They always throw Andrew Nemhard, who's done an admirable job, right, getting under Cade and making his life difficult. But OG Anunoby, McCall Bridges, Josh Hart, there's just something about the options that the Knicks have to try and slow down Cade that makes me a little bit nervous that if we get into an actual playoff series, bright lights come on, that maybe that wouldn't go as well as it has so far in the regular season. Where I think that, look, if it's Andrew Nemhard, and as well as he's done in the past, if you're asking me if in a playoff series, Cade Cunningham can kind of put Nemhard to the ropes and force the Pacers to change their strategy a little bit, I do feel pretty good about that one, just on talent and size difference, right? That
Yeah.
that Cade would have in that matchup. So I do actually kind of like the Pacers matchup a bit more than the Knicks, just for that reason alone.
That's fair. Yeah, and I mean, the one thing about the Knicks too is the Pistons are playing with house money. Like no one expected them to be where they are in the playoffs at all. And the Knicks, it's kind of like win now time. Excuse me. After you trade for Michael Bridges and Cat and give up all the capital you did to get those players, like they're coming up on the time where they got to win games. And not saying like the Pistons won't be motivated to do it or anything. It's just the Knicks have a lot more to lose than the Pistons do. And you could make the same argument for the Pacers as well. But if you're just throwing all the storylines out the window, I think the bright lights and Chuck Brewer mentioned it in the chat, like wanting the media of a New York series too. Like seeing the Pistons play playoff basketball at Madison Square Garden would be insane.
Playoff basketball in Madison Square Garden is pretty much what established Trae Young as the superstar he is, right? I mean, he was the villain
Exactly.
there in that series a few years ago, and that was a lot of fun to watch. It'd be fun. I'm not saying it wouldn't be fun. I would
Whatever
have
the
a lot of fun
outcome
with
is
it.
will be
Yeah.
fun.
Yes, yes. And I think I'll also call this shot. I do think we win a playoff game this year. I don't think
Oh,
whoever they get
we
here
have to.
that they get swept. I do think that they win a playoff game, especially with the way they're playing and the fact that simple fact, and this has not been true at any point in my lifetime, the simple fact that the Pistons are likely to have the best player on the basketball court.
Yeah.
That's a game changer. This is a really good question here from Jeremy Goldberg in our chat. It says, is anybody nervous that based on the last two games that the refs might start clamping down on our aggressive play? This was definitely the case against the Nuggets. Not so sure about the Nets. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a little nervous, but at the same time, like I think Nikola Jokic, like the Pistons aren't gonna see him again unless both those teams make the finals in a highly unlikely outcome. So I think it was that matchup a bit, and then like Mike Malone, what he did, like complaining about the aggressiveness early. I don't think the Pistons are gonna see that a lot, and like once you get into the playoffs, the refs are definitely going to let a little bit more go like they do every year. And are there still going to be the Jalen Brunsons that are hunting for fouls and playing that unethical basketball as the kids call it these days? Like, yes, but I think you're gonna see a little bit more loose, or just like refs swallowing their whistle a little bit more. But yeah, after like what the Nuggets did, I think it's definitely a fair worry. But and even against the Nets, like we saw Duran and Stewart in foul trouble. Like Cade picked up 2 fouls early. So it's such a like unique line between like playing aggressively and not like playing yourself out of the game. And I think the Pistons have done a good job at towing that line already, and they just have to find ways to continue doing that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Nuggets game was more of the problem than the Nets game. The Nuggets game, it was actually called fairly even in terms of total fouls. I'm looking at it right now. So the Nuggets had 18 team fouls, the Pistons had 22. So it was a fairly selectively whistled game. It was just that the whistles were, it felt a little bit touchy, maybe I should say, right? A little ticky tack after Mike Malone literally stood in front of the ref like this during that first quarter to get that tech, which was hilarious. And I loved it. I was curious if he was actually going to get tossed right away, because that was, oh, it was so funny to just see him live, just standing there in front of the ref like this. But
He's a
props to
hilarious
him.
guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I love Mike Malone. He's such a great coach. Um, anyway, though, so yeah, Mike Malone did a great job in that moment, kind of forced the ref's hand to get them to get that whistle in the direction he wanted. In the Nets, against the Nets, 24 fouls for the Brooklyn, 29 for the Pistons. So yeah, lots of fouls were called. And yeah, as YouTube user says, wildly inconsistent whistle against the Nets. I would agree. The refs kind of went back and forth between wanting to call it really tight to get control of the game and letting more physicality go. I think in general, like, we can't really take too much of a trend out of these past 2 games. And in fact, the Pistons they don't play as physical as they came out against the Nuggets against everybody. They are a tough team. I don't want to take that away, but go back to that Boston game. They weren't trying to literally not allow Kristaps Porzingis to walk, right? Like they were trying to do with Jokic. They were getting in his way. They were frustrating him, all that good stuff, but they weren't being as physical as they were against Denver. That was a game plan thing, and it kind of blew up in their face. Point is, I'm not too worried about it. I don't think there's too much of a trend here from one game to the other between these with the Nuggets and the Nets games. And then, like you said, I mean, when we get into the playoffs, whistle always gets a little bit more lenient. We see less of the foul baiting being successful, and we see a lot more leniency for even things like hand checking, which has been illegal for a couple decades now, right? I'm just not too worried about it yet. If we start to see more games officiated like the Nuggets game, where even the Pistons superstars not getting the benefit of some of the doubt, then I think maybe we can revisit this in a few weeks. But as of right now, I don't think there's much to worry about.
Yeah, 100%. Just can't play yourself out of games. Like that's been a worry with like when Isaiah Stewart was starting, been a thing with Jalen Duran at times. And I mean, especially like against Brooklyn, Cade picks up a couple fouls early. That's the biggest thing. Like your players you need to have the flexibility. And I think going into postseason basketball and hopefully more getting away with more things goes into the Pistons' hand. But yeah, just gotta find ways to keep yourselves on the floor, and then I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, we got to remember in the playoffs, the getting away with things, it does go both ways.
Yep.
The Pistons will get away with more stuff on defense, but they also won't get as many calls on offense, and that could be a problem with some of the whistle that I think Cade has gotten. Though that's been a lot better since he really marked his territory as a star in this league. Let's get to the voicemail question this week. This is from our guy Evan calling from Canada.
Hey, Blake and Wes. It's Evan calling in from London, Ontario, Canada. Last time I called in, I saw a charge on my phone bill for an international call. And I'm still doing this anyway, the second time. So really appreciate you guys taking the call. It's worth a couple bucks to me. My question is about sort of more generally your coldest take from the last couple of years. I feel like last year, the pandemonium of 28 straight, like 14 total wins, even the year prior, like it just probably wasn't good for any of us. We probably all said some things we would regret, like, so I'm just curious, from the last couple of years, which of your takes on the Pistons have aged the worst? What things do you remember thinking in the last 1 to 2 years, which you were like, wow, boy, was I wrong? Jeez Louise. So anyway, I think that'd be fun. You guys take care. We'll chat you soon. Bye-bye.
All right, Blake, awesome question. And shout out to Evan from London, Ontario, Canada, for picking up the phone bill just to ask this. So what do you think? Worst takes of the past couple of years?
Yeah, and Evan, shout out to you for the question, and hit us up. We'll have to crowdsource your international charge there, but appreciate you calling in anyway. That's awesome. I think where my first reaction with this, and I wish I had one that's more consequential. Maybe I'll try to think of something different, but I really thought Simone Fontecchio was going to be like a key piece of this team, and this is just going into this season after he was acquired at the deadline last year. I think I even wrote a piece on Detroit Bad Boys, like heading into the regular season, about how Fontecchio is one of the best values in the NBA after the Pistons re-signed him for like $8 million a year. So yeah, I thought he was going to be like potentially a starter on this team, have him out there for spacing, and he's been good at times over the season. He's been a bit invisible at times too, and I think he's a fine signing and he's a good depth piece to have. I just think he's never going to grow into what I thought he was going to be, and it totally makes sense. Like, it's only his third year in the NBA, I think, but he's older. He had a full like overseas career before it. I just thought, like, coming into this season, he would have had a say to be in the starting lineup, and I was totally way off on that, and I don't think it really matters now, but that's where my gut initially went with that question.
I am guilty of the exact same thing. I really thought that we were going to see the Simone Fontecchio we actually saw to end last season that we saw in Utah. I do wonder how much of this is either Tech trying to take up a little bit more of the ball handling load because Ivy's out, or if maybe he wants to show that he's able to do it. I don't know what's going on with that. I wish that he'd just be a strictly catch and shoot or rip and go guy, instead of sometimes he's probing and trying to make a play with the ball in his hands. He didn't do that all that much in Utah. I know that he has it in his bag to flash it occasionally, but I just don't love the volume on it. So I honestly, I think if he reined that back, we'd all be super happy with the player that he is and the role that he has. And if things had gone differently this season, maybe he would have been worth starting and worth considering with that. But yeah, I won't let that bad take die, though, for you, Blake. I won't let that one go. I think that's a defensible bad take. That's all I'm saying.
I know. I'm really trying to think of something more consequential, because there's definitely, I mean, I think the ultimate bad take is like being how thrilled like I was, and probably a lot of people were, with the Monty Williams hire. Like, I loved him as a coach, and like how he turned around Phoenix and what he's did before. Like, I really believed in that it was a home run hire, and it was the exact opposite of that. So I'd say that is probably the other one that's much more consequential than Fontecchio, because YouTube user mentioned he thinks Tech is still worth his contract. I agree with that, and after this season he becomes an expiring deal that, if there's a move to make, a throw-in piece that some team will probably be interested in too, so that's value there. But yeah, I think the ultimate coldest take recently in the past few seasons of the Pistons is the Monty Williams hire.
I think the thing that's most frustrating, even now in hindsight with the Monty Williams thing, is that, and this gets lost with all the social media anger, and I understand why. Monty Williams is a good coach. Like, he is. So what on earth happened last year?
I don't know. Like I've said this before. There needs to be a book. Someone needs to write the book.
There does.
Yeah, maybe we can throw that on Omari's plate if he needs anything more one day looking back at the season, because that I can't explain it. That I don't think anyone can. Monty Williams is a good coach, and clearly it just it didn't work out. He probably didn't really want to be here either, but couldn't turn down the offer. So that's a big part of it. But yeah, going back to how excited I was, and I know a lot of people were about that hire when it happened. It's just wild to look back on that and then how things transpired from there.
So my coldest take, outside of all the coaching stuff, because that's just easy, like you said, low-hanging fruit there.
Yep.
This wasn't even a super firm take, okay? So that should put into perspective just how terribly bad the take was. I was open to James Wiseman kind of proving things wrong and actually maybe even making things work as kind of a 4 if things shook out the right way. I mean, he had flashed a little bit of ball handling stuff in Golden State. He had shot the ball a little bit. He's not a super physical player, so it felt like maybe if you get him out of that post spot and out onto maybe on the wing or in the corner, you can make something happen with that if the shot comes along. And he's so talented and athletic and big, and he can move well. I trusted him more as a switch guy, even more than like a shot blocking guy down low. And then, of course, none of that even happened. It was even apparent in Summer League when they were playing the too big thing with those two guys, Duren and Wiseman, that one year, that Duren was actually playing more of the 4 role than Wiseman was on offense. And that was the red flag that, no, there's not even a sliver of hope for that one. So, and like I said, I wasn't hoping for it. I wasn't expecting it, but I was at least sitting back. I was like, okay, the guy has the talent. He has the ability. Let's see. Maybe it'll work. Maybe everybody's wrong. Everybody was right. Everybody was right. And shout out James Wiseman. Hope he heals up well and gets another shot here next year.
Yeah, that's
not here. Just another shot. Sorry,
sorry,
not in Detroit. My bad.
No, rooting for him, and yeah. Maurice Shaw brings up his bad take was wanting Cam Whitmore instead of Asar. That's a good one, and I mean Cam Whitmore is still exciting, but yeah, those
Walker.
Yeah, Jarris Walker too. Those Thompson twins, man. Everyone says that they're just the most incredible athletes that they've ever seen, and I believe it too. So yeah, Asar is a good one because his pre-draft, people didn't watch a lot of him, how they developed in OT and everything. I was trying to go through recent draft picks who I thought would work out. I mean, depending on how far you want to go, I feel like I believed in the Killian Hayes experience maybe a little bit longer than a lot of people did.
I believed in it a lot day one. After year one, I was extremely skeptical.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I always thought there was something that was going to break through there. So that's another one. I'm thinking of other players.
Fingers crossed that he can do a Dante Exum sort of thing. I almost wonder if the best thing for Killian, of course, here we go. We're closing the show on Killian Hayes. I almost wonder if the best thing for him is not these 10 days, not the G League stuff, but go overseas, cut out a role on a successful team, and do that for a couple of years, and then start mining back into the NBA side of things as just a Swiss Army knife defender who can handle the ball, pass it a little bit, and every now and then, right? Every now and then he can make something happen on offense, or every now and then on on a game, off game, he'll go off, right, and get 20 points, but that's not his role. It's like Chris Dunn's another one of those kind of guys who's out of the league for a little bit and then boom, comes back and he's just an effective defender and a good passer.
Incredible perimeter defender.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wonder if that actually might be best for him, because in the G League, you're still, I mean, look at his numbers, right? He was top dog down there in the G League, and that's just not gonna fly in the big leagues.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good plan too. And like, I'm trying to think of other like players that the Pistons had that I believed in. Like, I'm thinking of Hamidou Diallo and Frank Jackson.
I still don't get how Hami's not in the league.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and Frank Jackson, when he was on the team, he was probably one of my favorite Pistons. Like, I think he's having a pretty successful international career right now, but I thought he would have stayed in the league a little bit longer than he did. But yeah, it just speaks to, I guess, how there weren't a ton of, and the roster wasn't filled with NBA players before. I'll just put it that way, and no slight to those guys, because they're not the best examples for this, because they're both good players in their own right. But yeah, this year it's just like, it's such a reward for all the fans that were watching this team when they were rolling out lineups with James Wiseman, Frank Jackson. Like, you can go on and on through this list. And I know I've seen some Pistons fans on Twitter, like, gatekeeping fandom. Like, if you weren't watching with when Luigi Datome was here, like, you can't enjoy this. Like,
Walter
things.
Herman.
Yeah. So, man, I'm just happy for everyone watching this team, because this run is incredible, and I truly believe in where the team is going.
Me too. I'm all bought in. This is special. What they're doing is special. I don't think we're in for a letdown. I was still guarding a little bit just for my own mental health before that Celtics game, but as soon as they did that, as soon as they took this back-to-back against Denver and the Nets and did what they needed to do, I think that you could just put your doubts away. This team's legit. It's a special run. It's going to be a fun stretch here down the rest of the season, and the future is really exciting. And you know what, Blake? The best part about having bandwagon fans jumping on with the Pistons right now, you want to know what the best part of that is?
What?
They got a reason to jump on.
Yeah.
Right? Their bandwagon exists for a reason. So I welcome it. Come on, new Pistons fans. Let's go. Pack LCA. Let's go all in. Let's go all in. That's all I want to say.
100%. I love it. And before we close it out here, we didn't get to YouTube users question, but got to shout out our guy Pistons Jack Kelly, who's such a big part of this show that people probably don't realize. Like, Jack and Wes hosted DBB Live before we started this podcast. Jack created a lot of the media, like, photos.
Literally every graphic you see on this screen was made by Jack Kelly when he passed the baton over to our guy Blake Silverman here when we transitioned over to the Pindown to be more of a podcast platform. So yeah, Jack, our guy, big, basically one of the three founders of this podcast. Many people don't know that there were three: you and I, and then also Jack as well. So yeah, we're super pumped for him. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's and yeah, Jack was on the first episode of this show. He's been on before. Like, Wes, I know me and you have gone on his fan reaction shows after games and everything. So really happy for him, and shout out to the Pistons organization for bringing him to Detroit. Like, couldn't happen for a better guy. Like, just unbelievable. And he truly bet on himself this year, like quitting his full-time job to go all in on the Pistons and this team and make content full-time. So really happy to see that he got all the experiences that he did and all the content that's going to come out of it, and everyone getting to meet him. I wasn't able to make it out to a game this week, unfortunately, and Wes is on the other side of the state right now, but I have a strong feeling that this week isn't going to be the last that Jack is in Detroit. So we're going to have to change that next time.
Agreed. And you know what? I just want to say quickly before we close this thing out, is that Jack's like following and the excitement that he can help build around the Pistons. It just speaks to the international following that this team has. And, because obviously Jack is from Australia, and we're getting questions from Canada on the Pistons Pulse every now and then. We get people watching from Brazil and from overseas in Europe. And it's just so crazy to me that a team that has struggled this much over the past decade can have the international following that it does. And then now all of that's starting to bubble up to the surface with the excitement that we've seen around this run and the building that they've been doing and Cade Cunningham becoming a superstar. And it's just so cool to me that we have an international fan base for Detroit Pistons basketball. And now it's kind of getting its shine, right? And they've earned it. They've been watching the same games that we have over the past decade.
At ungodly hours.
Through it too. But yeah, at ungodly hours. So major respect to anyone overseas or in another country. Yeah, we got one, Puerto Rico. Let's see, Garo Drigg. Hopefully I said that right, for Puerto Rico. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of the coolest things. It's one of the coolest things. Pistons fans everywhere. It's so cool.
Yeah, and obviously, like I'm a little in the Pistons bubble, like we all are. But I'd put this Pistons community, like, and the passion up against probably like any fan base in the league, which is incredible because we're not a big market team. Like there are Lakers fans every year, but that's not us. But the passion is there, and I'd put it up against anyone. You see it from all the stories that come out from the beat writers and just the discussion online every game, no matter how the team's doing, where they are right now versus when they won 14 games last season, it was all still there. So it's truly incredible. And Jack's a big part of that too. So super happy for him. Hope he has a safe trip home.
Yeah. Seconded. Last thing to close us out. The NBA is better when the Pistons are good.
Yes.
Everybody agrees with that.
Oh, 100%. And yeah, we'll leave it at that, but there's much more to come. Shout out to Evan for using our voice line and even paying a couple bucks to do so. Evan, hit us up. We got to help you out with your phone bill there, but shout out to you. And anyone can call that number, ask a question if you want, hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. And special thanks to Sean Corp, the managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. Shout out to you guys for all the great questions and talking points. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you all.